Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I'm going to be working on an old one. I previewed this one probably about 3 months ago as part of a fishing flea market find kind of thing. I found a whole box of reels and some attached to poles on Facebook Marketplace, and I wasn't chasing this particular reel. I was looking at some other pieces. This pole and everything got put to the side, and I told myself, this is an old pole, circa 1950s, maybe early 1960s, and I'd actually like to put some line on it in the spring and see how it does in pond fishing, and I just kind of left it off to the side. The reel, as I mentioned, didn't cost much because it was included in a whole bunch of other stuff. But this one is the South Bend. It's the Cast Oreno, and number 5. And South Bend is a tackle company that was prominent in the 40s and the 50s in, South Bend, Indiana. That's where they kind of got their start. Then they merged with Gladding, which was a fishing line and cable manufacturer. Gladding actually started making marine cables for big ships. And then they also started making fishing line and braid as well. And they acquired South Bend, and then South Bend was split off after Gladding went bankrupt. And South Bend eventually was acquired, I believe, by Big Mountain Sports or something. It's just a brand now. It's not, no manufacturing or anything going on there. So I'm going to start by taking this reel off because, it's hard to work on it on the pole. And this reel is all kinds of tangled in that. I suspect that it's been quite some time since anybody gave this thing any love or attention. And I like to see if I can't just give them a second chance. So a lot of the times you're going to go to a flea market or a garage sale or something, and you're going to see this, and people will tell you, gee, it's the reel I had as a kid, and I'm not using it anymore or whatever, and just decided it's time to sell it, right? Well, I get that completely, but you can find some good things just by looking. Well, interestingly enough, this the sticker kind of tells a story. It's made in Japan, so that's my logic would say that this thing is probably late 50s, early 60s, just by made in Japan. And it's an interesting little reel. It's got silver ring or a chrome or something as a cover. It's still turning very tightly, but it's turning. The handle's a little bent. You can kind of see it's all wavered. I kind of have trouble when I try to rebend these. That handle worked kind of easily there, but you got to be careful. These knobs and studs have been around a while. Just use some hand pressure. Don't go crazy on it if you're trying to true that up. And this has got rust on it. I don't think there's anything you can do with the rust. Again, I'm working on a reel that probably at most, if I stretch my imagination, was $5 or $6. It wasn't much. You can see the chrome flaking off of that as I do this. But to me, it's always fun to take these reels apart, see how they're made, and see if we can't get them back working again. So I'm going to take the side plate off now. There's 2 screws. This is a level line drive reel. You'll notice that as I take the pieces and parts off that I put them into a parts tray. In this case, it's the bottom of a milk jug. And as I take these pieces and parts off, I want to thank our first responders and essential personnel, our teachers, our medical staffs and teams, the folks in the supply chains delivering food and essential pieces and products to us, the fire, rescue, EMT, hospital staffs, anybody in medical. Thank you for all it is that you do. And a special shout out to the folks that are involved in distributing the vaccine, the latest hope that we can get through this pandemic soon. Those 2 screws should be the only thing holding the side plate on now, and indeed it is. You'll see how much of a direct drive reel it is. It's simply a gear. That's the main gear to the reel. I'm going to take that off. This thing is sluggish. So sluggish is usually attributed to a bunch of dirt and dry grease and the like. So we'll see what we can do with that. The spool gear is kind of a funky pot metal sort of a thing. It does come off. Our spool comes off. And I think this is probably going to come off too. It's plastic, I think. It could be rubber. So there you go. That's the chassis of the reel. You can go further. You can take off the side plates and posts and that if you want. Not needed. I'm going to use you know what? I'm going to use a spray of Flitz metal cleaner. Let's see how that takes off the tarnish. So I'm going to turn this off right now. I got to go over to a basin. Flitz is a metal pre-wash, and it's applied by spraying on there and then washing it off. So I'll be right back. We'll pick this. Okay, so that was quick enough. The advantage of Flitz is that it's a spray bottle, and you just spray it and right to the water tap and trip it off. Now there's rust on here. That rust I'm not even going to worry about. It's been smooth. I used a little bit of steel wool on that. But overall, it took the grease and grime and the surface stuff to the extent that you could take the surface stuff off. So let's just see if we can't make this thing run smooth. We're going to take some fishing reel grease. In this case, I'm using Penn Precision reel grease and an artist's brush. I'm just going to get a little bit of grease onto the back end of the worm drive there. There's a little slot that it sits in the back here, so you want to make sure that gets seated properly. There's a little gear that goes on there as well. And you got to get this line guide into that groove. And make sure you can get the gear on here. And then get it into that slot, and we're not there. A little bit of patience. There we go. Well, it's turning easier already. Just a lot of dirt in there, I guess. And I choose to oil worm gears as opposed to greasing them. So in this case, I'm going to use a fishing reel oil. In this case, it's Lucas's fishing reel oil. Lucas, I guess, is the same manufacturer as the motor oils, racing oils. I guess you see them in the NHR drag races and all. Okay, there we go. We're in that now. You can see as you turn your hand that it's working nicely. Get a little bit of grease onto the gear here. I'm going to take my spool next. Probably should take the opportunity with the spool off to remove the line, but I imagine you don't want to see me just spending a lot of time taking the line off, so we'll leave that on for now. I'll come back and get that later. There's not much going on this spool. There's some kind of coating on it. Not a very firm coating, but again, for the price that this reel was, you wouldn't expect something like that. But it's enough. And I guess that maybe that's what gives these reels somewhat of a reputation as being inferior. They're really not. Now, of course, the bait casting reels have a whole gamut in terms of the how good or bad they are, but this one's dependable. And again, I would estimate probably early 1960s, something like that. Could be off. It's Japanese, so probably 60s. This is your plastic piece, which cleaned up nicely. Backwards, that's what's going on. There we go. Take your time. Be patient when you do these things. It doesn't always work the first time. Don't force anything. Here's your main gear we cleaned off. Check the teeth. In this case, I've kind of done that already while I was off camera there, waiting on it. Get grease onto both the pieces. Get it onto the gear stud. That goes into the faceplate. Just like that. Goes through there. Turning nicely. We can go mount that onto our 2 screw holes. Now, this is a good place to probably tell you, take pictures along the way so that you know that when you took it out, South Bend was parallel to the bottom of the wheel seat here. Oops. Just looked at my desk here. We've got the spool gear. Let's get that back on. The spool gear, the threads on the spool gear face out, if you're wondering. Now we can go put that back on. Two screws that hold the side plate in. be able to put the handle on. We'll see how we did with our $5 flea market find, Facebook Marketplace find reel. I'm kind of anxious. That old pole, it's got a bent eyelet in it. I think I can straighten that out. It's a rusted eyelet, so it kind of tells you that it was a lower end rod and reel combination at the time. But quite honestly, I can remember fishing these as a kid, and I'm kind of surprised to see the performance of it. Nothing fancy in this reel, no ball bearings, no drag washers. This is a knuckle buster, but cleaned up nicely. A little bit of grease, a little bit of oil, and this thing should do what it was meant to do, go fishing. All right, here's that handle that we cleaned up. Oh, remember when we got this, it was all tangled up with line, so I don't know if it got tangled up with line and somebody just gave up on the reel or what. I didn't see any indication of internal damage on this reel. So we'll see. All right, I don't have the plier, the nut cap driver at the moment. I'll go get it. Let's go give it a try. All right, that's a little tight on the spool. There you go. Look at that. So this reel is doing fine. Back, forward. So there it is. That is a South Bend Cast Oreno, number 5, circa 1960s, maybe late 50s. Nothing wrong with this reel. This reel can go fishing tomorrow. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And please stay safe, stay vigilant, stay doing the things we're being asked to do in terms of helping to end this pandemic. And stay watching. Have a great day.